Hello, I hope you're having a good day. Today we're going to watch a movie called The Rig. In the North Sea, the crew of the Kinloch Bravo oil rig is getting ready to return home after months of hard work. However, Magnus, the director, receives bad news. The helicopters have been diverted to assist the North Killscore platform due to a power outage, leaving the timing of their pickup uncertain. Before he can ask for details, communications fail. Kat loses contact with her wife, and Fulmer can't activate the radio. Magnus calls a meeting to inform them they must wait, which causes discontent, especially from Lars. Suddenly, the power goes out, the generators fail, and the backup battery struggles to maintain the critical pressure in the production module. While Fulmer tries to contact the standby vessel without success, the platform trembles, the module catches fire, and Magnus orders it shut down despite opposition from Rose, the company representative. A thick fog then envelops the platform. Fulmer restores power, but communications remain down, and helicopters can't reach them. Alwyn suspects a seismic event, but Rose dismisses the theory. Magnus sends Fulmer and Baz to the radio tower. There, after an argument, Baz finds a dead seagull before suddenly falling from the tower. Baz is stabilized in the infirmary, but without an operating room, his condition is critical. A shaken Lars blames Magnus. Meanwhile, Rose reveals that all nearby platforms are facing similar problems. Baz wakes up with visions of the sea collapsing. Lars, enraged, finds a memo confirming the company will abandon the field, leaving everyone unemployed. During a confrontation on the helipad, ash begins falling inexplicably, and Baz warns, "It's begun," before fainting. Sick, Baz reacts violently to a blood extraction attempt and shows signs of accelerated healing through glowing spores in his wounds. Later, the crew sees lights from the standby vessel requesting help. Magnus orders Fulmer to signal them while organizing food rationing. Lars begins to lose his sanity while locked up, with Easter guarding the door. In the infirmary, Baz wakes with his wounds nearly healed and has a vision of the destroyed platform. He flees to his room, where he experiences intense pain while expelling his gold tooth. Rose analyzes the ash and orders no one to go outside. Fulmer reports that the ship has no further data or communications and says they must evacuate before dawn. Although Rose fears legal repercussions, Magnus prioritizes safety and keeps the lights on to guide the ship. Alwyn finds Baz drawing circles on a window. A disturbed Baz confesses something strange is happening. The lights flicker, and after another vision, Baz flees. Lars manages to escape his room while Lek, intoxicated with isopropyl alcohol, dies after a strange collapse in which his body expels tattoo ink. Kat suspects something is ejecting inorganic material from their bodies and connects it to Baz's lost tooth. Fulmer and Alwyn investigate a light on the bridge, but Lars deceives them and locks himself in the control room, sending SOS signals that attract the ship. Alwyn tries to re-enter from another side while Fulmer alerts Magnus. A fight is narrowly avoided when they manage to redirect the ship. Meanwhile, Alwyn follows some lights to Baz, who, obsessed with life in the water, drowns him before fleeing. Kat confirms Alwyn's death as Dunlin alerts them about a wave caused by the ship's course change. Rose discovers that the ash contains living spores, a parasite that heals wounds while seeking a healthy host. Magnus authorizes blood testing for everyone. Heater notices the fog is lifting, revealing that the neighboring platform has been destroyed. Fully recovered, Baz throws his blood into the sea, releasing spores into the water tanks. When James discovers this, Baz silences him to avoid being exposed. Rose concludes that the spores come from a fossil nest awakened by drilling. Magnus organizes the crew. Some will disinfect the platform, others will search for Baz. However, the threat seems to be evolving quickly. Lars and Dunlin arrive at the room and find James wounded on the floor. Lars notices that spores in the water have started to grow plants in the engine room. Heather, Easter, and Murch also discover plants sprouting over oil. Suddenly, the platform starts shaking again, and Dunlin sees James bleeding. When James opens his hand, He reveals he's lost a tooth, indicating infection. Terrified, James hits Dunlin and flees. The platform loses power again, so Magnus pulls Fulmer out of isolation to force him to repair it. Heater finds Baz in the mud pit, where he's cultivating plants everywhere. Baz claims an ancestral memory told him to defend the place because it's under attack, and that if he dies, everyone else will fall. James appears, joining Baz's cause. The team notices Heather is missing, and Lars goes to rescue her, allowing Baz and James to escape before Heather can get the doors open. Fulmer restores power, but they discover the flare in the production module is missing. They need to disconnect it from the electrical system to prevent an explosion, but the controls are in the mud pit, where they risk infection. The only option is to ignite the flare manually, and Fulmer takes the risk. Easter operates the crane to bring him closer to the module, but it's not enough. Fulmer unhooks his harness, manages to ignite the flare, but is caught in the blast and taken to the infirmary with severe burns. Meanwhile, Baz's visions worsen, leading him to conclude they must shut down the platform system to stop the attack. James tries to close a valve, but the pipes are still pressurized and could explode, so they decide to access the source instead. After a visit from Rose, Fulmer claims to be fine, gets dressed, and joins the investigation. Without realizing it, he begins drawing circles in a notebook, just like Baz. Magnus calls everyone to the control room, where they discover that pressure levels are critical. Baz attempts to bypass the mud pit's safety locks. Fulmer can't override him remotely, so they resort to using the ROV Diana. Easter guides the ROV, which captures underwater images showing circles in the seabed similar to Fulmer's drawings. The ROV seals the wellhead, thwarting Baz's plan, who then tries to access the system via the CPU. An alarm sounds, and Fulmer must disable it. Suddenly, Easter's phone receives a message. Communications are back. Magnus tries to contact the Coast Guard, while Fulmer searches online for the meaning of the circles, which seem to convey something. Rose checks the system and finds a hidden project called Sirin, which is inaccessible to her, along with Fulmer's drawings. Kat calls her wife, who tells her the company claims the crew is safe. But they also face electrical issues. At that moment, the fog reaches the city, leaving its inhabitants without power. The internet signal goes down, and Magnus's messages to the Coast Guard do not go through. Baz uses his spores to connect with Fulmer, accelerating the healing of his body. Fulmer begins to hear Baz's voice in his head and runs to the bathroom to check his wounds. Rose notices his absence and goes looking for him, surprising Fulmer just as he sees Baz's reflection in the mirror. Confused, he confesses what he's experiencing. Rose kisses him to comfort him, which triggers a vision in which Fulmer perceives Baz's suffering as he asks him to join him. Hours later, Rose discovers a note that Fulmer left before heading to the mud pit. She follows him with Kat and finds him there. The spores approach Kat but do not attack. Instead, they gather around her stomach, curious about the baby she's carrying. Rose pulls her out before anything worse can happen. Meanwhile, the crew celebrates upon seeing lights approaching the platform. It's a ship from the neighboring rig. Upon receiving the survivors, Rose meets Coke, a representative from the company's research division, who demands to be taken to the control room. Kat checks the new arrivals for injuries, and Easter is shocked to see among them his former love, Harish. Coke explains that their platform exploded due to a pressure failure and insists that they must prioritize access to the production module. Rose tries to find out why Coke was at that platform, but he refuses to provide details. In the infirmary, Harish confides in Easter a different version. Coke had sent several employees home and forced the rest to install new equipment. Instead of extracting oil, they were sending something down. The fog arrived and people began to disappear, but Coke acted calmly, as if everything was planned. He ignored pressure warnings and forced the test until the platform exploded. Heater investigates the system and finds no record of Coke on the crew list. Harish explains that Coke used a temporary account created upon arrival and deleted all evidence of the experiment before abandoning the platform. As he reviews more data, Heater identifies an unknown name on the crew list and finds emails confirming that the organism had already spread. This proves that Coke knew and that the company sent it intentionally. Kat, examining the circles Rose is studying, remarks that they resemble a tree. Rose deduces that the rings represent mass extinction events and that the last ring is closing quickly, indicating a new extinction is underway. Coke reveals that the explosion on his platform was caused by infected individuals who opened the well to destroy it. He insists on sending a team to the production module, but Magnus rejects the risk. Rose concludes that the containers and tests are related to Project Sirin. Fulmer finally joins Baz and James, but realizes his mind is clearer than theirs. Baz explains that the spores haven't taken full control of Fulmer yet, but soon will. He offers to help him harness them and agrees to operate the system. Fulmer starts working on the system but needs time to disable the alarm. Meanwhile, Dunlin, Lars, and Murch summon Coke to a private meeting, fed up with Magnus's decisions. Coke suggests using carbon dioxide from the secret containers to stop Baz by channeling it through the mud pit's ventilation system. Although they agree, Dunlin becomes suspicious upon noticing the labels show the CO2 is mixed with another substance. The team connects the canisters to the ventilation system using masks. Baz sends James and Fulmer to investigate. James finds the trio and vomits blood, revealing that the carbon dioxide is killing him and the plants. Lars and Murch flee, but Dunlin tries to save James until he also dies. Fulmer attempts to shut down the ventilation, but he and Baz collapse in the control room. Kat catches Coke sealing the mud pit doors, trapping Dunlin, who dies from lack of oxygen. Heather and Harish inform Rose and Magnus about Coke, who defends his actions as necessary. Magnus opens the doors, but only Rose can manually shut off the ventilation. There, she revives Fulmer, who awakens after accidentally touching the plants. They escape as Baz regains consciousness, and the last spore ring closes underwater. Harish reveals that Coke risked the platform to destroy the spores and fled in a boat, leaving everyone else behind. Magnus interrogates him, and Coke admits that the company wants to protect the oil by exterminating the spores and the infected. Rose proposes another path. Fulmer could communicate with the spores like Baz to achieve coexistence. In the pit, Baz senses that the spores are rejecting him, while an earthquake shakes the platform. Fulmer connects with Baz using a plant and discovers that the spores are planning a massive landslide to cleanse the ocean. Rose explains they are a global network, nearly impossible to destroy. She suggests using AAS to stop them. Magnus, though hesitant, allows the attempt. Magnus, Rose, and Fulmer descend into the pit, where Magnus has visions of his dead son. They find Baz, who believes he has failed. Meanwhile, Coke manipulates Harish, promising to save him, but Harish exposes his plans to detonate the rig by activating the microphones. The earthquakes worsen, tearing the platform apart. Coke starts the explosion countdown just as helicopters arrive. Coke tries to escape to the helipad, but Lars confronts him. Kat and Heather stop him while Harish and Easter disable the detonation. Rose senses a shift in the spores and manages to communicate with them, but a massive quake strikes. Magnus and Fulmer pull her from the pit, while Baz decides to stay to prove that humans can offer something. The last helicopter takes off with Magnus, Rose, and Fulmer escaping just before the tsunami destroys the platform, and Baz merges completely with the spores. Kat tries to warn the citizens, but the pilots stop her. The tsunami hits the city, killing Kat's wife as the crew watches helplessly from the air. I hope you enjoyed the video.